The Religious Freedom Restoration Act was about religious liberty, not about discrimination.
Faithful freedom. Indiana's governor defends a law that he says is not a license to discriminate. Unspeakable sorrow. Relatives mourn their loved ones lost in last week's plane crash in the French Alps. Lenten almsgiving. Small change makes a big difference in Congo through Catholic relief services. And church treasures. A new Vatican exhibit presents priceless artwork from centuries past. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Tuesday, March 31st, 2015. Line for drafting an agreement framework. Secretary of State John Kerry says difficult issues remain unresolved. Questions are still being raised over uranium enrichment and where stockpiles of enriched uranium can be stored. There are still differences on limiting Iran's nuclear research and development and when sanctions should be lifted from Iran. A deal is expected to be finalized in June. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is again speaking out against any deal with Iran. Addressing his own country's new parliament today, he says a deal would pave the way for Iran to build an atomic bomb. Netanyahu says the emerging deal is expected to leave much of Iran's nuclear infrastructure intact. He criticized the talks earlier this month before a joint session of Congress here in Washington. As victims' families, members gather at the French Alps crash site memorial, new evidence raises new questions about what was known of the co-pilot's mental health. Emails from co-pilot Andreas Lubitz tell Lufthansa's flight school that he had a serious depressive episode in 2009. Lufthansa says Lubitz passed all medical checks after returning to the school. An aviation medical examiner who does yearly tests on pilots says the tests do not focus on mental health.
Basically, when this guy comes to me, the pilot comes to me, as I told you, I make a physical exam. There is no real psychiatric exam. I'm not a psychiatrist.
Prosecutors say Lubitz intentionally crashed the Germanwings plane last week, killing all 150 people on board. The Vatican defends the recent appointment of a Chilean bishop by Pope Francis. Monsignor Juan Barros faces allegations that he covered up abuse by another priest. A Vatican spokesman says, after careful examination, no objective reasons were found for not appointing Barros as bishop. Barros insists he did not know of the abuse until reading a 2010 news.